With verb phrase expansion, what we're doing is we're looking for the verbs. And in stage 1, kids use very simple verbs, right? We call them lexical verbs because they always give you an image. Like do you remember we talked about lexical morphemes versus grammatical morphemes? They're lexical verbs, and usually they're transitive, which means they take a direct object. I eat cookies. It means I did something to the cookies. That's a transitive lexical verb. Very simple verbs. In stage 2, kids tend to elaborate their verb phrase, and the head of the verb phrase is the main verb, right? With present progressive inflections. What does that present progressive ing mean? It's currently happening. So if I say eat and elaborate it with the present progressive, what am I doing? Eating. That's what's different. I'm modifying just eat with it's happening right now. They also use, as Jessica told you, those semi-auxiliaries. So I want to eat. Those are very characteristic of stage 2. In stage 3, we have the modal auxiliaries develop. And modal auxiliaries, you got the idea earlier in this talk that there are many different types of auxiliaries. And what are auxiliaries in general?
Helping verbs.
Helping verbs. So auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. They help the main verb, right? And they're attached to a verb, a main verb. Okay? So we have a certain kind of auxiliaries. One is modals that we'll talk about a little bit later. Can and will. They emerge, as well as those grammatical state verbs. The to be verbs, is, are, was, that we looked at earlier that tend to be copulants, right? So we have the to be auxiliaries, the basic auxiliaries that Jessica told you about, and the copulants. And those are so critical in English to sound grammatical. That's how Brown came up with his 14 grammatical morphemes. He picked the ones that were most important. They're used most often. So if you learn them, you sound pretty good. You sound like a native speaker. You can get by without using all the modals. And you can get by without using all the conditional modals and those kinds of things. But they do start with the can and will and the auxiliary and copulus. Okay? They do start using conditional modals. Modals are just a type of auxiliary verb. And conditional modals are a type of modal. Okay? They're all subtypes. Like I may, I might, I could, I must. So they have what we call attitude. Basically, they give you something about how, they give you information about the aspect of the verb, the attitude, how the speaker intends it. Is it obligatory? Is it a possibility? Are they asking for permission? So those come in stage 4. Also, the state or the process verbs, want, stay, think, and know. What's different about these verbs than these lexical transitive verbs that we talked about earlier? They may be, yeah, they're all intransitive. That's true. What else is different? Can you see them?
They're also not, they're not lexical.
Yeah. Well, they're lexical because they do elicit an image, even though it's not a visual image like these are. But they're more abstract. They're internal states. Okay, they're more about your thoughts, your feelings. So those are a little more advanced verbs. So if you see your kids using those kinds of verbs, that's something you can remark on. And then at stage 5, they elaborate verb phrases with third person singular, present tense, irregular past, and they've mastered auxiliaries and copulants. Okay? Are there questions about that? Okay. So, what is the verb phrase? What's the head verb in I want to go home? Go. And how is it elaborated? Want to go. And actually, you could even say want to go home, because even though home is a noun, it's embedded in that verb phrase. Okay?
that a direct object then?
I want to go home. Yes. No, actually, it's not. Excuse me. That it is a direct object. Yeah, I'm getting that confused with object of the preposition, which I'll tell you a little bit later. Okay. How about I would have gone if I could? What's the verb phrase there?
Would have gone.
Would have gone. And in the second clause, what's the verb? Could. Excellent. So you guys have the idea. How are we elaborating? What syntactic categories are we using to elaborate noun phrases and verb phrases here?
Adverb.
Adverbs, like in quickly. What else?
Modals.
Modal auxiliaries, present perfect auxiliaries, semi-auxiliaries. All of those, just basic auxiliaries, all of those are used to elaborate verb phrases.